Call the Wednesday, February 19th Planning Commission hearing to order. Heather, if you could call the roll.
Mr. Granger, Mr. Boswell,
Here.
Mr. Klee, Ms. Macbeth,
Here.
Mr. Edwards,
Here.
Mr. Schaller,
Here.
Mr. Tarley.
Here.
Our first order of business is to welcome our new member, John Tarley. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
And someone who has participated in Planning Commission hearings and events over the years, and now we're grateful for you to have joined our team. Knowing that we were losing Caleb and that we had a to-be-determined player joining us in February, we did not articulate our committee assignments in the January meeting, but I have received support for people to continue where they are, and no one has asked to change. And so the Planning Commission subcommittee assignments, I will be continuing with the Tourism Development Committee. Jeffrey Klee will be our liaison to Economic Development. Andrew will be continuing with ARB, and the rest of our team will be making up the site plan committee. Okay, so having said that out loud formally, our next item is the approval of our minutes. We had 3 meetings last month in January, a regular meeting, the CIP work session, and then the comp plan work session. Are there changes or additions to any of the minutes?
The CIP work session, January 22, listed me as present for that one, but I was not.
No,
Anything else?
I have no changes.
Someone would,
I move we accept them as presented.
Second that motion?
Heather?
Mr. Granger, Mr. Boswell,
Aye as to the 15th and the 29th, but abstain as to the 22nd.
Mr. Klee, Macbeth,
Would you like to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Schaller,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Abstain.
We have a consent agenda item of the Sotherly Hotels on 306 South Henry Street. Is there a desire to move that from the consent agenda, or is there a motion to accept it?
Move to accept.
Second that motion?
Heather?
Mr. Granger, Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Klee,
Aye.
Macbeth,
Aye.
Mr. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Schaller,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Abstain.
There are no public hearings, but we do have an open forum. If anyone would like to come forward and speak to the commission on any item before us, please do so at this time. Seeing no one, the site plans we've already attended to with the consent agenda. We do have unfinished business that we do need to work on, but it should hopefully also be quite smooth. We had our capital improvement program meetings in January, and we have the letter that Carolyn has put together from those meetings that needs to go to our city manager. Are there any corrections or changes, or there's seven or so bullet points that Carolyn's pulled out from our meetings to highlight? So a motion to accept the memo is written.
So move.
Second.
Heather?
Mr. Granger, Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Klee,
Aye.
Ms. Macbeth,
Aye.
Mr. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Schaller,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley.
Abstain.
That concludes the standard business that we have for today. That is part of the public hearing. We do have 7 items that are for public hearings in March. We also have immediately following the conclusion of this public hearing, a Planning Commission work session where we'll be looking at the Commercial and Economic Development chapter. That meeting is not televised, so this meeting will be ending in momentarily. So we have that meeting right now at February 19th, and then next Wednesday at our regular work session time, we will also have a work session for the Planning Commission comprehensive plan dealing with Parks and Rec. And if there's no other public hearing business, I will call us adjourned.